Hello viewers and welcome to yet another live-action commentated match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm pleased to present you with yet another video courtesy of none other than Alexander Cimadon, currently situated to the right, who's taken up the reins of the Chaos faction Warlord Ku'gath Plaguefather. To the left we happen to see his opponent, a gentleman by the name of Hendrik Ritter, who's taken up the reins of Eldorath Starbane, our Eldar faction warlord. In assessing our opening layout of planets, planet number 1 is going to be Barlas, the random card discard planet. Planet number 2 is going to be Eloith, which affords players the opportunity of tutoring the top 3 cards of their deck for any one card that they'd like in order to add that to their hand. Planet number 3 is going to be Taurus, which rewards players for keeping their unit count lower than that of their opponent and rewarding them with the chance to draw an additional 3 cards or generate 3 resources. Planet number 4 is going to be Yvarn, and its battle ability is for both players to put an army unit into play directly into their HQ at no expense. Planet number 5 is going to be Karnath, always a little bit of a wild card. Its battle ability is to simply trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play. The initiative token happens to be in the hands of Alexander Cimadon, and we end up seeing that his first deploy action is a copy of Slaaneash's Temptation, an attachment affixed to planet number 4, which serves to increase the price of each and every deployed army unit played by Eldorath by 1. So for instance, that rogue trader put out to planet number 3 was paid for at a premium. It basically cost 2 resources instead of 1. We also see a Splintered Path Acolyte put into play at planet number 5 and number 2 by Alexander, and we have a Void Pirate sitting at planet number 4 played out by Eldorath. That's the only planet on the board where he does not have to pay an additional resource. We end up seeing a copy of Warlock Destructor, now situated at planet number 1, that was paid for with 3 resources. It's a 3/4 unit. You have to pay a resource during the deploy phase just to keep it around, but it confers Eldorath a spectacular bit of aggression. The initial planet is a green Strongpoint planet, and we see Strongpoint at planet 1, 3, and 4, so we could potentially see a victory as early as planet number 4, but we've still got a few resources left for Alexander, and the fewer resources spent to pay for units, the more deploy actions you'll take, the less likely you are to give your opponent a bunch of information so that they can trump you during the upcoming command phase. Note that Alexander has the initiative token. Under normal circumstances, that's not something that Ku'gath is tremendously fond of, just because if Ku'gath were to go to planet number 1 to try to contest the Warlock Destructor, he would end up having to attack prior to taking damage and being able to use his reaction to move that off of himself. But we end up seeing a copy of the Chaos Lieutenant, the unique Zave's Split Tongue, put out to planet number 1, and that's absolutely fantastic. Just because any time that a unit dies, normally units are much squishier than a Warlock Destructor. That's going to be an additional cultist token generated by Zave's there. So that's going to be a 1/1 unit, which you can sacrifice to put demons into play, and those Splintered Path Acolytes also help reduce the cost of demons. Where is Eldorath going to go? So Eldorath ends up going to planet number 1. If he'd have triggered a battle at planet number 4, he'd have been able to get rid of that Slaaneash's Temptation, but definitely Yvarn isn't a planet that players normally trigger the battle ability associated with very often, so it's going to be a very low value planet there. So I'll be very curious to see when and if a battle eventually takes place at Yvarn, just because each and every subsequent deployment is going to be all the more strain on Eldorath's economy. But in running through our command struggles real quick, it looks as though Eldorath won 2 cards at planet number 1. Planet number 2 is going to be 2 cards to the right for Alexander. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Alexander to the right. Planet number 4 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Hendrik. Planet number 5 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Alexander. Looks as though the Warlock Destructor at planet number 1, which the initiative was stolen by Eldorath because Alexander does not have a Warlord present at that planet. The Destructor is going to be taking a swing for 3. Zave's has 3 hit points. Are we going to see a shield played by Alexander in order to save Zave's Split Tongue? He's going to have to do something like a 2 shield card or 2 1 shield cards just to keep his lieutenant alive, and that was maybe in retrospect a little bit of a silly play unless he thought that Eldorath was going to be going to planet number 4, but it looks as though a copy of Slaaneash's Temptation was indeed discarded. Zave's Split Tongue only took 1 point of damage. Eldorath now takes a swing. That's going to be another point of damage, which is not shielded. We're going to see the end of the combat round. All these units ready, and Zave's quite wisely retreats to live another day, and if we see, I don't know, like a Warp Storm, Zinch's Firestorm, all of that garbage, end up killing off some units once Zaves is deployed to that planet, that could still serve to generate a wealth of cultist tokens, even if Zaves isn't going to be of much use himself. So, Ku'gath is going to take a swing at that Rogue Trader, where he's got initiative once again. It's a bit of a shame that he doesn't actually have damage on himself, so he cannot serve to kill off that Rogue Trader via his reaction, because we see a copy of Nullify used as shields, and the Rogue Trader ends up living until the end of the combat round, and it can retreat. So Ku'gath ends up winning that battle, but he's got 4 units in total relative to Eldorath also has 4 units. So we see an HQ phase come and go. Our new planet's going to be Ossus 4, which serves to steal 1 resource. Now the initiative token is going to be in Hendrik's hands, and it's going to be up to Eldorath here. Eldorath has a grand total of 6 resources, but those are going to go downhill quickly. Looks as though Hendrik has that 1 green strong point icon. We've got more strong point icons at planet number 2 and planet number 3. Those are going to be the green icons there, so we could see the battle or the game 1 as early as our current planet 3, but Eldorath is going to want to deploy army units to planet number 3, planet number 2, and then Ku'gath is going to want to try to block him off there, but Eldorath is going to have to send at least something to planet number 1 if he doesn't want that Splintered Path Acolyte to be able to win that battle entirely uncontested and afford Alexander the opportunity to tutor the top 3 cards of his deck for a bit of solid gold to add to his hand. We see a copy of the 2/4 Khorne Berserker played out to planet number 2. That's going to be a 2/4 Brutal unit, so the more damage it takes, the more damage it deals out in return. It's definitely a nice target to be tapped out by Eldorath, but if it survives to attack, it's probably going to do so like a truck. We see a copy of the Bealtan Guardians put out to planet number 4. That's going to be a 2-cost, 2-command unit thanks to Slaaneish's Temptation, and we see a copy of the Chaos Fanatics put into play at planet number 3 by Alexander to quite conveniently block and exceed the 1 command icon associated with that Void Pirate there. So that's going to be 1 card, 1 resource denied to Hendrik, and that's going to be 1 resource generated by Alexander unless Eldorath does something about it. We see another several resource tokens gone. That's going to be a 2-cost Rogue Trader put out to planet number 5. And what exactly are we going to do? It looks as though Eldorath is entirely out of actions. We end up seeing a copy of the Slith Mercenaries put out to planet number 5. 2 command icons is greater than 1. I learned that in elementary school, so that's meaning Alexander's going to be able to win command at planet number 5 unless Eldorath has something to say about it. And due to a 0-cost promotion, the Splintered Path Acolyte is also going to be able to win Alexander command there at planet number 4. So between having to pay a premium for all of those units and running out of deploy actions early, that Slaaneish's Temptation has definitely hurt Eldorath here. So our players are deciding where exactly to send their units. We actually see a copy of the signature support, the Aleatok Shrine, sitting there in Eldorath's HQ, and that means that wherever Eldorath goes, looks as though Eldorath and Ku'gath are both going to go to planet number 2. The Aleatok Shrine is going to be able to exhaust itself in order to ready an exhausted Eldar unit that happens to have moved. So the Warlock Destructor will have been exhausted during travel to the planet, but it's then readied by the Aleatok Shrine. Looks as though Eldorath touches down, exhausts that Khorne Berserker. Planet number 1 is going to be 2 cards to Alexander to the right. Planet number 2 is basically going to be 1 card, 1 resource there to the left for Hendrik. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 resource in total to Alexander. And planet number 4 is actually going to be, let's see here, it looks as though we actually see a copy of Superiority, so that's going to be 1 card, 1 resource to the left there for Hendrik. So he actually is able to just basically block his opponent from winning command at the cost of a Superiority. So whether you think that card is decent or whether it's complete garbage, it at least prevented his opponent there from drawing a card and a resource, but it didn't actually help Eldorath. Well, I guess it did actually generate. Well, it kind of broke even. I was going to say it didn't help him generate momentum, but he invested what he reaped. In any case, planet number 5, of course, was 2 resources there to the right for Alexander, and it looks as though planet number 1 was entirely uncontested. That means Eloith, a blue technology planet, is going to be captured by Alexander, so his Splintered Path Acolyte bounces back to his HQ. He got to take a peek at the top 3 cards of his deck for whatever it is that he saw and liked, and we have no idea what exactly it was that Cimadon drew, But now it's going to be up to combat here. We've got combat about to erupt at planet number 2. The initiative token is indeed in the hands of our Eldorath player. We see Eldorath take a swing at Zave's Split Tongue for a grand total of 1. Are we going to see a shield card or not, just to preserve the life of that unit? Any enemy unit that ends up being destroyed is going to be 1 cultist token, so long as Zave's continues to grace Taurus with his majestic presence there. But what exactly are we going to see from both of these players? In regard to combat tricks, of course, Chaos has a whole host of different effects, like, Warp Storm, Fetid Haze. Alexander has an adequate number of resources for those. We could also see a 3-cost Tzeentch's Firestorm. For Eldorath, we could see, I guess, Empower, something like that. It looks as though we saw a Warp Storm discarded as a shield, so a very interesting play there, and that means that Eldorath is going to do no damage to Zave's, and here we go, we actually see a Warp Storm played out, and that's going to be 2 points of damage to Ku'gath, 2 damage to the 2/4 Brutal Khorne Berserker, boosting that up to a 4/2. Ku'gath is going to have some damage to transfer off of himself. That Rogue Trader is going to die, the Warlock Destructor is going to be wounded, and of course Eldorath Starbane himself is going to be wounded. There's no unique ready Eldar unit to trigger the likes of a Nullify. So let's see how the timing breaks down here. Looks as though, okay, thank you for making it easy for me, Alexander. Zave's Split Tongue is actually kept alive thanks to a Tzeentch's Firestorm. So that's going to be the Rogue Trader dying, and that's going to be a cultist token generated in the HQ of Zave's Split Tongue. I'd have to check the RRG to see how Warp Storm going off, how it would have happened. Like, would that Rogue Trader have died before Zave's Split Tongue would have potentially died? Would there have been a cultist token generated or not? I believe players alternate turns, assigning damage based on initiative, but I don't know why I'm talking about this when I can just check the RRG after the match. But it looks as though Ku'gath himself took a swing at Eldorath Starbane. He uses his reaction to shift 1 point of damage onto Eldorath Starbane, and then of course he just does 1 traditional point of damage to Eldorath as well. We see that Warlock Destructor take a swing, and what exactly is its target going to be? It seems as though it's the Khorne Berserker, and the Khorne Berserker is outright destroyed, so that was quite a few cards that we've seen Alexander invest in keeping that Zave's Split Tongue alive at the present moment, and let's hope for his sake it's worth it. He's only managed to get 1 cultist token, and I'm wondering if that 2 shield icon card perhaps would have been better spent to just help keep that Khorne Berserker alive and dealing out tremendous amounts of damage. But all of our units ready at the end of the combat round here. It's going to be Eldorath's opportunity to decide, does he want to retreat or not? And I suppose we're just kind of waiting on his decision there. It looks as though both of our players are very much lost in thought. Note that Eldorath does indeed have the initiative. I think he's checking his hand to see what kind of shield cards he has access to, and he must just be pondering the possibilities. I think the Warlock Destructor could quite handily kill off Zave's Split Tongue, but then Ku'gath is going to be able to likely kill that Warlock Destructor. It's going to be very interesting to see how things go. We have 2 resources there to the left for Eldorath. We have no resources to the right. If this were Zerathir we were playing up against, we'd have, things like Infernal Gateway to worry about that could drop units into play. Looks as though Eldorath did decide to stay. His Warlock Destructor finally kills Zave's Split Tongue, and now it's going to be up to Ku'gath to do a little bit of damage here. So he's going to go ahead and take a swing. What exactly is his intended target? Looks as though he moves 1 point of damage onto Eldorath, and I can only imagine that his attack similarly must also be targeted to Eldorath. Are we going to see a shield card discarded or not? We don't see any elites in play, and we see a clear as day copy of Fall Back in our Eldar player's hand. It looked as though he also had a copy of Nullify, but what exactly are we going to see? Eldorath is getting pretty dangerously close to being bloodied, especially if he takes this single point of damage, and then any subsequent messing around with Ku'gath could mean a single point of damage being shifted onto him and costing him, his ability. So looks like Fallback was indeed used as shields. we see the end of another combat round come and go, and is Eldorath going to stay or not? Wow, okay. Looks as though Eldorath ends up staying. The Warlock Destructor puts 3 points of damage onto Ku'gath. Ku'gath is sitting at a whopping 4 points of damage, but of course he transfers one to Eldorath. And are we going to see another shield card used to spare Eldorath from being bloodied? There we see that other copy of Nullify, and Eldorath is going to take a swing and deal 1 additional point of damage onto Ku'gath there. So if Eldorath does not run, he is playing an incredibly risky game. Granted, the initiative token is in the hands of Eldorath. If there's no shield card left in Alexander's hand, which of course there is, we know, but the opponent doesn't know that, 3 damage from the Warlock Destructor would be enough to bloody Ku'gath and send him packing from the planet. So Eldorath Starbane does not necessarily need to leave, run away right away, but it's going to be, oh my god, so Eldorath is actually staying at that planet. That is incredibly ballsy, to the point of being a little bit foolhardy, I think. So the Warlock Destructor's attack is mitigated down to 2, thanks to the discard of a Promise of Glory. That's going to be Ku'gath shifting 1 point of damage onto Eldorath Starbane, and Starbane is, of course, immediately bloodied, sent packing from that planet. I think he's something like a 1-5 or a 1-6 now, I can't quite tell, but that's going to be the end of the combat round here. Taurus continues to be on the line. Looks like Eldorath controls 5 units. Looks as though Ku'gath himself controls whopping 6 units. So unfortunately for Ku'gath, that does mean that the opponent's going to have the opportunity to trigger Taurus. That's going to be some additional cards or resources. It's going to be entirely his choice. He doesn't have a tremendous wealth of cards in hand, but he's definitely been using up a surplus amount of resources there because of Slaanesh Temptation sitting there at planet number 3. So we've got that fantastic alt art Eldorath Starbane. Looks as though both of our players are poking fun at the wonderful artistic depiction of Eldorath having somehow had a hand rot off thanks to the plague of Papa Nurgle there. Looks as though our HQ phase comes and goes. That's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players. Aatrox Prime is our new planet number 5. It basically serves to bombard any target HQ or adjacent planet for 1 point of damage, and it looks as though we could see a victory condition for Eldorath as soon as our planet number 2, and for Alexander we could see a victory condition as soon as planet number 3 if he ends up taking Yavharn and Karnath. But Eldorath is definitely going to have to be pretty careful from this point on. He's no longer going to be able to tap out some big, dangerous chaos unit like a Khorne Berserker or Possessed or any other, the myriad demon options available to a chaos player. The initiative token is in Alexander's hand. Note that Warlock Destructor is still sitting there at planet number 1. And that's going to be just interesting. That must have cost, I think, 2 resources at this point for Eldorath. Looks as though we see a Splintered Path Acolyte and a Cultist token sacrificed in order to put into play a Gleeful Plague Beast. So a very devious little play here because of, Alexander. Basically, he put a unit in play where at the beginning of the combat phase, every unit at that planet is going to take 1 point of damage, and the Warlock Destructor, which, it's been very expensive to, first of all, put into play and then keep in play, it's potentially going to be outright killed at the onset of combat because of the Plague Beast, and that's going to make things very difficult for our Eldar and Dark Eldar allied player to try to win command. But Incubus Warrior goes to planet number 2, which is, actually not purchased at an additional cost, so that's nice for Eldorath, and he's able to actually trump his opponent's command, at least ever so briefly. We've got that Slith Mercenaries currently sitting at planet number 4, beating that Rogue Trader, and it looks as though Alexander ultimately changes his mind in regard to the destination of the promotion he put out being planet number 2, so that he can basically best the Incubus Warrior and Void Pirate there. So we see a Rogue Trader put out to planet number 5 by Eldorath. That was once again purchased for 2 resources, and where exactly is Eldorath going to go? It definitely wouldn't be the worst idea for Eldorath to go to Yavharn at this point, just because he's not really going to be able to do anything at Taurus, and he's definitely going to want to get rid of that Slaanesh's Temptation. Eldorath doesn't have any units in his HQ with which to benefit from the Aleatok Shrine, but that was only a 1 resource unit, and that Warlock Destructor definitely put in a little bit of work thanks to the assistance of the Aleatok Shrine. So for Ku'gath himself, I could see Ku'gath going also to planet number 2 just to make sure that his opponent can't trigger Taurus, or similarly, I could see Ku'gath maybe even more wisely going to planet number 3 since he's already winning command at planet number 2, and he could serve to, use Karnath to trigger a battle ability like, I guess, Taurus if his unit count is low, but Ku'gath doesn't want to trigger a battle at Yavvarn if he doesn't have to, just because we see a copy of Starbane's Council put into play at planet number 1. That was a whopping 4 resources required to pay for that unit, so it's definitely powerful, but it's definitely not, the strongest thing in the world. And because of the presence of that Starbane's Council, I now wouldn't be surprised to see Ku'gath end up going to planet number 1, although the risk of him being bloodied is quite high. The initiative token being in Alexander's hand means that he's going to have to attack first, and then that Starbane's Council is going to potentially have the opportunity to swing back for a grand total of 5. Looks as though Eldorath actually goes to planet number 1. That is a very interesting condition. I guess he must really be interested in potentially winning that ability. Looks as though Ku'gath himself ends up going to planet number 5. The Gleeful Plague Beast is going to fire itself off, but that's going to be in regard to command. 1 card, 1 resource at planet number 1 to the left for Hendrik. Planet number 2 is going to be 1 whopping resource for Alexander. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource to the left for Eldorath. Planet number 4 is going to be 2 resources for Alexander, and planet number 5 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Alexander. So that Gleeful Plague Beast is going to deal 1 point of damage to each of the units present at that planet. That could kill off the Warlock Destructor, and it's likely to harm Eldorath Starbane or the Starbane's Council. So, Eldorath himself is only a 1/5 unit. He's about to take a point of damage. The Warlock Destructor is outright destroyed. That Starbane's Council takes a point of damage. Eldorath is now only a 1/4 unit, and things are looking extraordinarily dangerous here for our Eldar player. As soon as that Warlord ends up getting pinned down, if it takes 4 more points of damage, and we now know that Iridial is not going to be a planet involved in this game, that's going to be Eldorath destroyed. So what exactly are we going to see here? It's Eldorath's opportunity to attack first. Either Eldorath can take a swing, and then potentially the Gleeful Plague Beast can hit Eldorath awfully hard, or we could see Eldorath use his combat action to retreat. The Starbane's Council is likely not going to be able to get off its attack of 5 up against the Plague Beast here, and all the more damage that Eldorath takes, all the more dangerous this is going to be for him. So we've got the initiative in Eldorath's hands. Is he going to run away, or is he going to be incredibly ballsy? I cannot help but feel as though it was a bit of a mistake for Eldorath to go to the first planet, but let's see how badly Alexander can maybe punish him for having done so. So we see Eldorath retreat, and that means the Gleeful Plague Beast is going to have the opportunity to attack. And if that Starbane's Council is killed, that is going to be a hell of a lot of wasted resources. So let's see how this goes. Oh my god, that's going to be a destroyed Starbane's Council. So that cost 3. That Warlock Destructor was destroyed, and Eldorath took a point of damage. Taurus is going to end up being activated there by Alexander, and that's going to be 3 cards for him, and that is a little bit of a death knell, I think, for our Eldar player. He's just paid through the nose for all of these units, and he's not gotten a lot of value from some of them. A rogue trader ends up being killed by Ku'gath Plaguefather's reaction at planet number 5, so we end up seeing Aatrox Prime fire at Eldar's HQ there, and that means Eldorath is only going to be with a very meager, paltry, just tiny little sliver of HP left. Only 3 between him and losing the game, so it's going to be critically important that Eldorath try to dodge combat, if at all possible. We end up seeing a new HQ phase that's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for both of our players. Looks as though Eldorath currently possesses the initiative token. I do believe that indeed changed hands. We end up seeing a Wailing Wraith Fighter put out to planet number 1. That's a very interesting choice. So Slaaneash's Temptation means that was only indeed played for 6. I'm not sure I've ever seen that played before. That's a 3/5 flying unit, and as soon as it ends up dealing damage, I believe you randomly discard a card from your opponent's hand. It's got a 0-cost attachment affixed to it. I can only imagine that that's a star cannon, though I don't recognize the art, and that means it's going to be a 3/5 Armor Bane unit. So it looks as though Alexander has one planet-type icon of each kind. That is a very daunting presence there for our Eldar player at planet number 1, with nothing except for a Chaos Fanatics opposing that gigantic flying, terrifying units, and the Incubus Warrior and the lowly Void Pirate. So what exactly are we going to see for Alexander? We see a Slith Mercenaries go to planet number 4. And that's going to be an additional card and resource, likely during the command phase for Alexander. Looks as though perhaps our Eldorath player has passed. He doesn't have any resource tokens remaining with which to play any units. And now it's going to be all up to Alexander. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult to overcome a 3/5 flyer. We saw a Bealtan Guardians also at planet number 1, which is quite interesting indeed. Looks as though a Khorne Berserker is currently situated at planet number 1, so that could take 3 Armor Bane damage, and then the Khorne Berserker is going to be attacking for 5. It'll be at a single hit point left. 5 drops to 3 because of the flying keyword, and then you can shield on top of it. So those flying units are just so incredibly dangerous and incredibly difficult to get rid of. It looks as though Ku'gath actually ended up getting a copy of his banner. How in the hell did I miss that? That is a hell of a play for sure. So Ku'gath's banner means that each and every time that Ku'gath attacks, note that he is fearlessly going to planet number 1, which is actually a very interesting choice now that I think about it. Ku'gath has a whopping 8 hit points total because of his banner, but each and every time he attacks, the banner's going to be able to move 1 damage off of him, and his reaction affords him the opportunity to also move 1 damage off of him. Looks as though Eldorath went to planet number 5, so in regard to command breakdown, planet number 1 is going to be 1 resource and 1 card. To the left, for Eldorath, planet number 2 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Eldorath. Looks as though combat is breaking out, so we see that the combat phase breaks down. That's going to be 1 point of damage to all of these units. And now Ku'gath is in a really dangerous position because if the Wailing Wraith Knight takes a swing at him, and thankfully for his sake he does have initiative at that planet, he'd potentially be killed if he's got 5 points of damage and the Wailing Wraith Knight gets a 3 Armor Bane swing, and then he wouldn't have the opportunity to move any stuff off of him. But planet number 4 is going to be 2 resources for Alexander. Sorry, planet number 3 is going to be 2 resources for Alexander. Planet number 4 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource for Eldorath. So because he was so fortunate as to have initiative, Ku'gath is able to take a swing at the Wailing Wraith Knight. He basically threatens 1 point of damage, and then he moves 2 damage total onto the Wraith Knight. So Ku'gath is sitting at 5 hit points remaining now for his sake. Very, very lucky for him, that initiative play. Now the Wailing Wraith Knight can take a swing. That's going to be 3 points of damage to something Armor Bane. And then I believe that's indeed going to be that random card discard. Or is it a choose and discard a card? Let's see what Alexander ends up doing. All right, so he chooses and discards a copy of Ku'gath's Nurglings. I think a random card discard would probably be a little bit broken. But looks as though we end up actually seeing that copy of Khorne Berserker be the target of the Wailing Wraith Knight there. So that's going to be the Chaos Fanatics. Wow, the Chaos Fanatics with an attack of 1 end up killing that Wailing Wraith Knight. And I don't know if that 6 resources was very well spent, killing off an already wounded copy of a Khorne Berserker. Wow, well, I guess that's going to be a battle won by Ku'gath. The Slaanesha's Temptation is finally going to be discarded upon resolution of that battle, and now Yavharn is going to be won by Alexander. That means he gets another, basically, planet-type icon of each kind, and now he's sitting at a grand total of 2 of each. So if he wins a battle at Karnath, our next planet, that means the game is going to be in Ku'gath's hands. Very interestingly, Eldorath here at the very final planet is going to take a swing. He deals 1 point of damage to that Slith Mercenaries, but the Slith Mercenaries is going to take a swing and deal 2 points of damage to Eldorath. Eldorath is going to be ballsy and attack. That's going to be an attack of 1, and we see a 2 shield value card, and there's the game. So the Slith Mercenaries would have had the opportunity to take a swing and end up assassinating Eldorath. So there you could have retreated with Eldorath, but then Alexander would have won the battle and he could have pinpointed, you know, the Aatrox Prime to blast Eldorath's HQ. So a fantastic game by both of these players, a great match between Eldorath and Ku'gath. Thank you to Alexander Cimadon for providing me with this footage, and of course thank you so much to Hendrik Ritter for providing me with just a fantastic bit of opposition to spectate and commentate. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I suppose I'll just end this video by saying, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, I always encourage you to share this content, as the more shares, the more likes these videos receive, the more subscriptions my channel incurs. All of it means that more people in turn will be exposed to Conquest, maybe give this game a try, buy into it, and of course the more people in our community, the more dollars there are spent on Conquest, all the more Fantasy Flight recognizes the necessity to continue to support and to develop for this game, and then that means a very happy Hive Tyrant and a very happy you. So if at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I'd encourage you to do so through Twitter or on Facebook. If you'd like to have me record, spectate, and commentate matches of your own, I'd absolutely love to do so. I've had a fair few players approach me recently, just like Alexander Cimadon himself, asking if they can supply me with live action footage just like the video you saw today, and I would be absolutely honored to accept. So I encourage you to reach out. If at any point you feel so inclined to help support the Hive Tyrant, I'd encourage you to check out my Patreon page. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for ever more Conquest LCG content to come.